Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Miftahul Ghanniyah. So in this occasion, I would like to explain my understanding of the reading materials for topic 15. So for the time reading material, there are three learning focus. The first one is definition of fossilization. Second one is it a global or local? The last one is it a product or process? So, visualization and second language learning is when after a certain point, learner can seem to make a progress and speak the new language like a native speakers. Salinker, a language expert in 1972, had some interesting idea about this. Salinker thought of visualization as two things. First, he said it's like a part of your brain or a cognitive mechanism that stops working. So these mechanisms keep certain language habits in your head and making it hard to speak the new language perfectly. Secondly, Salinker saw visualization as a performance-related structural phenomenon. There's a bit like saying it's not just about words, it's about everything in the language or like a grammar and how you talk in different situations. According to Salinker, once this happens, you can't speak the new language exactly like how someone who grew up with it. Next, a definition from others' views. So many others talk about visualization too. Some say it's when you can't speak the new language perfectly, and it can happen to both right and wrong ways of talking. They also said it can happen to different parts of your language skills, like speaking or writing. Next is dictionary definitions. So if you look up fossilization in a dictionary, it will tell you that it's when a certain language habits become permanent in your way of talking. It's like those habits stick around, even if you hear the language a lot or try really hard to learn it perfectly. But different dictionaries may explain it in a slightly different ways. Next is alternative definitions. Someone named Han in 1998 has a new idea. He says visualization is a two-step thing. First, in your brain, there's a process called a cognitive mechanism that makes certain language habits stick around. And then these habits show up in how you talk or write, and they stay that way for a long time. This happens even if you get more lessons or try different ways of learning. Next, some language experts are having a big debate if fossilization are global or local. They're trying to figure out if fossilization happens to everyone in everything they're learning or globally, or if it's more like specific parts of language learning getting stuck or locally. Even Jack Salinker, the person who introduced the term, shifted his view from a local to global over time. For example, there are terms like fossilized error that suggesting local fossilization, and fossilized competence and fossilized learner that implying global fossilization. Some researchers even categorize learners into two types. The type 1 is fossilized and type 2 is non-fossilized. Those who seem stuck in their ways is type 1, and those whose language keeps changing and evolving is type 2. So in a global fossilization, imagine your whole way of talking in this new language get a bit stuck and you can't really change it. Some experts call this global fossilization. So it's like saying I cannot talk exactly like a native speaker in any situation. And in local fossilization, some experts think it's not everything getting stuck. It's just certain parts of how you talk that won't budge. They call this a local fossilization. It's like saying, I'm okay in some parts of the language, but in others I'm a bit stuck. So next, the last researchers are discussing whether fossilization in learning a second language is more like a finished product or an ongoing process. Imagine it as a building blocks. Some people say it's like having a final structure, while others say it's like the ongoing building process. First, from the product view. From the finished structure perspective, visualization is seen as adapting certain language habits that stick around and don't quite match, and don't quite match the usual way of speaking. The catch is the word permanent. Some take it literally, suggesting that we need to watch someone's language habits from when we first notice them until they pass away to be sure visualization happened or not. And then yeah, this idea is tricky and not very practical. So trying to prove visualization as a finished structure is the way is to talk. It's almost impossible to track someone's language habits for their whole life. Just because we can't find this kind of proof doesn't mean visualization isn't happening. So instead of going down this tricky path, it makes more sense to think of visualization as an ongoing process. In a simple terms, it's like a learning pattern that tends to stop growing. Even a person practices and hears the new language a lot. This way of thinking is more practical and makes it easier to study the fossilizations. Um, I think that's all for me about fossilization and about the ongoing debating about is it a global or locally, and then is it a product or a process. So thank you so much for watching, uh, and I'm sorry for all mistake I made. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for watching.